Good afternoon, folks. Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilly here with a look at your tropical update for September 3rd of 2019. And boy, oh boy, we have plenty to talk about in the tropics. As always, brought to you by the good folks at Pine Belt Gutters. Big thanks to them for helping us out with this. Here's your enhanced infrared satellite of the Gulf of Mexico, as well as what's happening off the coast of Florida. We got Dorian here. And Fernand, right here. Yesterday, if you were watching this, I said, I think it's going to run out of time before it gets ashore, but wouldn't you know, they found a little center. It's just about right there. Yeah, give or take. But it wrapped itself up just enough to the point where it's something. We've got Invest 92L here, 91Ls floating around just off your screen there. Water vapor-wise, I did want to highlight something that's very important for us across the Gulf Coast, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Panhandle. You can see here comes the dry air shoving its way off to the southeast, and that's going to be what picks Dorian up. It takes Dorian back out to sea and away from us, thank goodness. It's also going to keep Fernand down here off to the south, but you can see just it eroding away at all of the moisture in the Gulf of Mexico. Look at all the thunderstorm activity. We've got all the moisture in there. The orange is the dry air, and it just barrels all the way down through the Gulf of Mexico and basically cuts it in half between Fernand and Dorian out here. Good news for us. The bad news is, I suppose, it's about to get toasty warm over the next couple of days, but hey, look on the bright side. Oh, we don't have to deal with this. Over the next couple of days, this is going to be marching off to the northeast as a Category 2, as it appears right now, all the way through about Cape Hatteras before it moves off to the northeast and out into the Atlantic. It's going to be moving slow, though, real slow. I mean, it's Friday by the time it gets to North Carolina. I would argue you could probably walk from Miami to North Carolina in just about 2 to 3 days. So wind at 110 miles an hour right now. Gusting to 125, moving northwest at 5 miles an hour. It's finally moving at faster than like nothing. 959 on the millibars there, so it is coming up a little bit, though. It is getting quite a bit fatter in terms of the overall wind speed, as well as just the girth of the storm in general. I'm going to run this back one more time. You can see the eye kind of falling apart as it drifts off to the north, barely. There it goes. I will say, a lot like summertime thunderstorms around here, this thing kind of, in essence, rained itself out because it was raining and raining and raining on the same water underneath the storm, and that actually cooled the water down to the point where it wasn't getting as much fuel to keep itself going, and that's why the eye gets really ragged here in the last couple of frames as it starts to lift off to the north. We'll have to see what happens as we head through the next couple of days. If that eye reforms, it probably won't get quite as defined as it was a couple of days ago when it was a Category 5, but it may get the eye back. It may be a kind of a loose and ragged one, but it may eventually return. We can slide over here and take a look at Fernand. Tropical storm Fernand now drifting its way toward Mexico. The idea here, 40-mile-an-hour wind, gusting to 45, moving west at 7. Pressure a whole lot higher at 1,004 millibars. This is as of 1 o'clock. 160 miles off to the east of La Pesca, Mexico, and again anticipated to move into Mexico as a tropical storm or very strong tropical depression over the next couple of days. Okie dokie, but that's not it. But wait, there's more. If you act right now, you may also receive Invest 92L. Invest 91L, or golly, how about just another wave coming off the African coast as well? So we had the one, there's the Invest right there, another little wave, and then we're watching another little wave come off as well. We'll start here with the Invest 92L, which has got a 50-50 shot over the next 2 to 5 days of development. If it does turn into something, it's probably going to get roped up and pulled out to sea anyway. This is more of a fish storm. You can see the island of Bermuda in there. They're dealing with showers, thunderstorms, and some high seas from this. Whether or not it develops, it probably doesn't change the impacts for the folks in Bermuda. They're just going to get rain, a fair amount of wind, thunderstorms, and some rough seas, and maybe a little bit of storm surge from this. But that's no different than any other big cluster of storms out there. So again, development or not doesn't really matter to them. A 90% chance of development here on 91L as this thing drifts off to the northeast. This one also going to stay out to sea, not bother anybody but the fish and the boats. The one in behind it, which is this cluster of stuff that's coming off the coast, with a 70% chance as we head through the next 5 days. The one behind it is something, as I lean in a little bit, is something that we're going to have to keep tabs on and pay close attention to as we head through the next 2 weeks. It's a long way away, folks, a long way away. It may never even get anywhere near us. However, it is going to ride along the southern periphery of a ridge of high pressure for a while. So there is a chance that it may eventually end up in somewhere where we care about. The good news is we have plenty of time before we get there. Well, we get plenty of time to watch this thing. So we don't necessarily have to concern ourselves with what's happening right now. But it is something we're going to have to watch as we head through the next couple of days. Okay, back to 91L. Like I said, this thing's going to stay out to sea, not going to bother a single person. Fish storm here. At some point in time, it may try and sneak a little bit closer to Bermuda, but we're not necessarily concerned about that at this point because I got a feeling it's going to get roped up into the main stream. We've got most of the models taking this one, 92L, off to the northeast. As somebody pointed out to me on Facebook, you get a group of anything, enough of anything together, there's going to be one crazy person. And there you go. There's your one weird model. You've got everybody going this way, and then you got the one wild guy that's going out and pulling a hard U-turn. Not going to happen. This thing's going to lift off to the northeast, not going to bother anybody. But again, Bermuda in the short term, no one in the long term. Okay, let's set the stage. 700 millibar moisture, 850 vorticity, the grayed out areas. As always, we're not concerned about tropical development. Once we get into the warmer colors, those are areas of low-level vorticity or low-level spin. Notice there's a lot going on this map. I'm going to have to try and find a place to stand like I did yesterday between all of these. We've got Dorian, Fernand, 92L, 91L, and eventual 94L. Dorian's going to lift up the east coast and probably bring a lot of surge issues and a fair amount of rain and wind to parts of Georgia, the Carolinas, as we head through Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Fernand's going to move into Mexico and bring them a lot of rain and wind and probably some flooding and unfortunately probably some landslides as well. Again, Bermuda getting rough seas and a little bit of rain and wind, and no one's getting bothered by this bad boy back here. Notice this one lifts off to the north and northwest. We're moving northeast. We're moving northeast. We've moved to the west, Dunfer, and now we're watching eventual 94L out here. There it goes. Get a little better organized as it crosses the Atlantic. Notice how it's staying a little further to the south. That one got pulled up through a weakness in a ridge. The question we had yesterday was how long is that weakness going to remain? Is this one going to be able to get lifted off to the north as well? So far, the models keep this one a little further off to the south. This is the GFS. We'll show the European here in a second. It stays a little bit off to the south as we head through September 11th, 12th, and 13th. There's also another wave back in behind that one that the computer models are picking up on, suggesting that that one may also be something that we need to pay attention to. And then back in behind me, this one kind of sneaks in the last couple of days. We'll keep tabs on this. I'm not too terribly concerned about something in the Bay of Campeche necessarily, but it has shown up now for 2 days in a row that around day 8, 9, and 10, there may be some kind of weak tropical something happening in the Bay of Campeche just off to the west of the Yucatan. Can you tell we're at the peak of hurricane season? Okay, over on the European, we've got Dorian here, 92L here, 91L here, Ferdinand right there. I'll find somewhere to stand so you can see everything here. Dorian going up the east coast here. European says basically the same thing as the American. 92L gets roped up and pulled off to the northeast as well. Ferdinand falls apart pretty quickly as it moves into parts of Mexico. 91L lifts off to the north, and here is eventual 94L right here. The European doesn't do quite as much with this one. It keeps it kind of stretched out, more of an elongated area of circulation, maybe not developing it and wrapping it up into a tropical system quite as quickly. But I will say, here we are on September 10th, it also develops that secondary wave a little bit better than the Americans. The American says, oh yeah, actually this one's going to do a little better. European says, actually the second one may end up looking a little healthier. Either way you slice it, notice, so here's the first one, and there's the second one, and there's a piece of the first one. Notice that all three of these also stay off to the south. We've got some dry air to the north and maybe a couple of other places of concern a little further off to the north, not necessarily bothering anybody. But as of right now, those two, as we head through the middle of September, are going to be worth watching as we get toward the peak of hurricane season. On the European model, back in behind me and into the Bay of Campeche, it also breaks out maybe a little bit of low-level vorticity, but it also has more dry air over parts of the Gulf of Mexico as well. So lots to talk about. A lot going on in the tropics. As you can see, we're doing our best to stay on top of it and trying to alert you as soon as we see something, you know, we say something. So there's a look at your tropical update for September 3rd of 2019. Again, as always, brought to you by the good folks at the Pine Belt Gutters. Consider yourself tropically updated.